Hi, Mage fans. This is your host, Terry Robinson with Mage the Podcast. Today's episode is a piece of fiction I wrote about a Syndicate magic man, which is to say one of the financiers' methodology members talking to either a reader or a new Syndicate member. This is something I wrote up while recovering from anemia when I couldn't really talk without being left winded. I paid a voice actor to perform it, I shared it with the executive producers, and they agreed overwhelmingly to share it with the rest of the audience. So thank you, executive producers. The narrator is Aaron Ducky Lorette. Aaron is an experienced voiceover/narrative artist with extensive background in theater, and because of your support, again, we got to pay him. Aaron also perfectly read all of my spelling and grammatical errors, so if something doesn't quite land right on your ear, that's me, not Aaron. Anyway, here's 3 facts about the Syndicate.
3 things you didn't know about the Syndicate. 1. We've almost always got a negative balance. There are few things like making $1.7 million a year and feeling entirely broke. Sure, I get paid phenomenally well, but there's a difference between money and wealth. The union will let me get as many cars, houses, cocaine bumps, expensive suits as I want, but if I so much as buy a postage stamp, or a $20 money order to pay for something off of Craigslist, or anything that has an immediate cash value that's not big enough to jam a satellite tracker on, it's flagged. Why? Deborah Herring. Debbie was a canny operator and is responsible for some of the most successful ventures Chicago had seen before the Reagan administration. Now, of course, no one gets to look at the books, the net position of every Syndicate investment. We do get to see the scoreboard, the net change in each associate's portfolio. A little digging and listening at parties gives me reason to believe she single-handedly built the most successful chain of quick lube places in the US, was the seed funding for 8 Michelin stars, and personally created the hot dog recipe that produced the best returns of any encased meat joints in all of Central Time. She was a good little funnel and gave almost everything to the union, but she cast her chips in on the beef franks joint. She took that hot dog money and saved it. She thought banking it would be too obvious. All our bank accounts are monitored and our savings accounts collect negative interests. So she spent it on a particular brand of jewelry that specialized in red diamonds. You need to make $8 million fit inside a Gene Keys pocket? 10-carat flawless red diamonds will do it. So she does this, and one day she just walks out, says she's retiring. No one retires from the Syndicate without it being in a spacesuit, a body bag, snapping going Marauder, selling out, going to Fondic, or it being a euphemism for a gene splicer skin job because you're on the run. Some lucky sods keep their noses clean and get to become consulting financiers and just do specialty jobs every year or so while being monitored like they're in a minimum security prison. Debbie up and leaves. Fine. How much damage can a hot dog vendor do? Turns out, she'd accumulated $500 million in jewelry and other remarkably dense, valuable objects. She even had a gram of californium decades before the sleepers and a way to contain it. Before we could find her, she managed to make a cool $18 billion using an options algorithm that happens to peak into possibly alternative dimensions using post-quantum algorithms that we had in development. It considered Everettian autocorrelation as volumes moving past each other and bled into the collective unconscious. This also raises questions about how she was able to build, buy, or steal a quantum frame and what friends she has, but that's another question. Forensics and Forecasting, the Syndicate exports on temporal science, will look into it, and the Adjustment Committee will fix it. Problem was, she got greedy. The algorithm was found to cause market instability in testing, and it could only be used to siphon off a max amount of cash from Forex each day to not arouse suspicion. She didn't know this and makes $1.2 billion in a day. Not bad return on an investment. Annualized, that would have been a lot. The problem wasn't the money so much as the pattern. It was obvious even if the why would require centuries to unearth. Red sky at the night, sailor's delight, existed centuries before the understanding of the weather systems that informed it. Same thing here. The market inefficiency it took advantage of showed up in certain metrics that became apparent, and for a brief moment, Chartist actually made money. How much could we have grown the books if sleepers caught on? Discounted to present, $188 billion. She cost us 188 billion. Since then, no one's allowed to get steady stores on values. There are small exceptions, though. There are reasons almost every wedding band in this place is a bit larger than you'd expect and made of rhodium. 2. We have memories. As you may have figured out, we're tracked. It's not menacing or even unreasonable, but it is constant. On top of that, I don't always have confidence that the only people looking into all that data are the Watchers and Cassandra Complex. Most Syndicate members use computers to process and communicate, but storing is another matter. We have ample notepads, notebooks, and in one case, a wax on wood slab because, quite simply, data can't touch what isn't online. On top of this, most money men have vast memories, like memorize 10 decks of cards in 5 minutes, vast memories. You can use your enlightened training, but we don't like those kind of long-term adjustments buzzing around us. I swear there are people in the city that can smell them. This all is relatively recent development. I remember the story of Edie Agbe. Edie was one of the canniest operators in all of sub-Saharan Africa, until someone lifted her playbook, the collection of personal leads, ideas, and investments that serve as a Syndicate mage's true name. They lifted it from her encrypted phone and scooped her move into Kinshasa's energy markets. Most people bet against it based on the corruption in the DRC, where she bet on its population more than doubling by 2035. From that moment on, she refused to commit her plans to Electron or Atom until the deal was inked. She's on the rise again, and rumor has it she stores all her vital information in the form of mnemonics tied to the communes when it was still Leopoldville. When she's trying to remember a detail, she's got some way of tying the client to a neighborhood, and all the details are tied to sites and key places there. Ask her to tell you about the Behringer deal, and she remembers Barambu along the Gombe. Me? I used the Lloyd's building. Before I was invited to join the Magic Men, I spent years running up and down its stairs and escalators, going from desk to desk, building a panel out of 24 syndicates, and I can tell you the name of every underwriter on floors 9 through 14, their girlfriend's name, and what team they follow. And that is a framework I can hang things off of. I have something like 187 leads and commodities, which I've mapped to floor 10 with the inland marine underwriters, and there are 30 desks on that floor. That gives me the English alphabet, plus a few random ones like that stupid O with a slash through it that the Swedes use. Going through the Larson Raw feed deal at the L desk is Arnie Hogan's desk. He worked for Lord and Smith's brokerage. This can make our move seem remarkably cryptic, as we issue dozens of trade orders for a particular hedge strategy from memory. Additionally, when issuing orders, sometimes text or email is the way to go, so it's not uncommon that a short list of keywords are agreed on pertaining to a particular deal or account, so even plain text can be hard to decipher. If I say, liquidate our holdings in Parker Associates, someone who sees that can front run the order, but if I say, take my sister to the birthday party, that's a little harder to outmaneuver. 3. We have hobbies. Most of us work at a pretty high level. Occasionally we'll tour a factory floor or investigate a lab, but we spend a lot of time with computers, and sometimes a dead tree prospectus, but there's a part of everyone who aches to make something. Some people, not enforcers, have surprisingly large family. Even a T2 likely makes enough to have a day nanny, a night nanny, and a cook at least 4 days a week. And when you take almost all the physical work out of a house and family, you have a lot left over. Now, there are strict rules on everything from schooling to allowances or intergenerational wealth microtransfers, but kids eat up money, and we got it. I personally know 2 T5s with at least 4 kids each, but generally you don't get past T4 until the kids are no longer dependents. Strangely, a lot of our underworld contacts don't trust people without a family. They think they can wave a picture of who they think is your son or dad, and that prevents you from splitting. Even if my husband is likely safer than most heads of state. Let a mob boss think it could give them leverage in an emergency, and they're more likely to make a deal even if we hold all of the cards. Now, no agent worth their salt, though, would even dream of giving actual information on their actual families. God bless deepfakes, holodrones, and electronic voice synthesis. Not everyone's so lucky. Q division, some parts of social media control, and all the enforcers don't like having those kinds of connections, and some people just aren't relationship types. It's hard to have a traditional relationship when you are capable of neurolinguistic assessment that gives you a better idea of what the other person's thinking than they do. For everyone else, they generally get a hobby. Not just your traditional racket club, golf, boating hobbies either, but real traditional shit. There's a YouTuber called Kyoto Meets Calgary who is actually an executive in the Canada office who specializes in traditional Japanese joinery. There's a reason you never see their face, and the voice sounds just slightly robotic. I make traditional canoes. Things that require face-to-face competition like slam poetry, Greco-Roman wrestling, fencing, and taking communion are done strictly within controlled facilities. Surprised there are Syndicate churches? The highly religious hold major coin globally, and something about them scrambles a bunch of our normal tools. Normally we can reveal the invisible hand, but it seems like the hand of God can trump that. Anyway, everyone likes doing business on what they think is their home turf, and we have houses of worship scattered across that are somewhere between lockdown and being hyper-skiffs. So there you have it. 3 facts about the Syndicate. One of them might even be true.
I hope you enjoyed that. If you would like more, drop us a line. If you thought it was absolutely terrible, maybe keep it to yourself. Anyway, this has been Mates the Podcast, where you'll never have a negative balance with us. The show is made possible by our executive producers. Join their hollowed ranks at patreon.com/matesthepodcast. I'll start with the oracles of the following Christmas traditions. Ben Bendelow, oracle of the Swedish smorgasbord of ham, herring, and rice pudding. Buck Gregory, oracle of the Mexican Las Posadas extended prayer, with nightly processionals from the 16th to the 24th. Christopher Phillips, oracle of the Brazilian beach festivities tied with midnight mass. Guy Stewart, oracle of the Iceland 13 Yule lads, who visit children leaving gifts or potatoes in their shoes. Mikhail, oracle of the Norwegian tradition of hiding brooms so witches can't find them. Bukuji, oracle of the Italian feast of La Vigilia, centered on seafood. Sean Gallagher, oracle of the South African celebrations that tend to focus on caroling and barbecue. The Crew of Erebus, oracle of the Finnish tradition of visiting graves and leaving candles, creating glowing fields in cemeteries. Jason Vines, oracle of Canadian eggnog consumption, the only country to rival the United States for this crime against eggs. Derek Semsik, oracle of the traditional Ethiopian Orthodox Christmas on January 7th, marked with feasts, mass, and games. Drawn Cap, oracle of the New Zealand tradition of Santa often wearing surf gear, along with Archmaster Andrew Edelstein, Archmaster Berto, Archmaster Brad of the Blue, Archmaster Dan Svensson, Archmaster Leroy Bryce, Archmaster Morgan Aran, Archmaster Nathan Weaver, Archmaster Simon Strand, Archmaster Wolf Larryson, Alex Alexia, Ambiversion, Anders S., Blaze Hibbert, Brandon, Bryce Perry, Bubba the Pale One, Chris Blake, Sig, Cromwell the Archaeologist, Curtis Hendricks, Daniel Cuppin, Daniel Scribner, Darren Hennessy, David McFall, David Roy, Dennis Osborne, Ian Robertson, Eli Levenger, Eric Schwenk, Fragger Rock, George Lara, Great Trellig H., Henry Kraft, Ia Bull, Jason Duncan, Jason Kennedy, Jason W. Briggs, Jeff Bryn, Jenna F., Jervis Johnson, John Magnuson, Lulz and Stuff, Kathleen Halperin, Kevin Fitzpatrick, Chris Kinner, Leslie Weatherstone, Manel Canos, Matthew Prohl, Maurice Hopkins, Melissa Krause, Michael Creedle, Michael Parker, Nibero, Neil Patterson, Nikita Klamanoff, Patrick McNamara, Patrick Mulder, Rachel Grace, Ricardo, Richard Bat Brewster, Robart the Robot, Ryan Stray, Rob H., Ryan Kendi, Samuel Tobin, Seven S's Starfish, Stephen Carton, That's Real Nito, Tyler Bryant, Vincent Hamilton, William Connolly, William Martin, and Will Vincent. The EP shout-out this episode is everyone who had their name said incorrectly by Adam during the Lore of the Traditions episode, because I think that was the first time someone else read the list in almost 3 years. Alternatively, shout out to everyone I say incorrectly that Adam said correctly. If you super liked this episode or super didn't, drop us a line at matesthepodcast@gmail.com or at matesthepodcast.bisky.social on Bluesky. We have a hop in Discord community at discord.me/matesthepodcast. If you like us, please give us a review on the platform of your choosing or tell a friend about us. Also go to matesthepodcast.com for show notes and all of our previous shows. Now go change reality. Bye.